The fantasy genre in literature has undergone a fascinating evolution over the centuries, shaped by cultural, social, and technological changes. Here's a brief exploration of its key stages. Ancient mythology and folklore. The roots of fantasy literature can be traced back to ancient mythology, folklore, and oral traditions. Stories of gods, heroes, monsters, and magical creatures laid the foundation for many elements found in modern fantasy works. Medieval romances and fairy tales. During the Middle Ages, tales of chivalry, romance, and adventure became popular in Europe. Works like La Morte d'Arthur by Sir Thomas Malory and The Canterbury Tales by Geoffrey Chaucer incorporated fantastical elements such as quests, magic, and mythical creatures. Additionally, fairy tales passed down through generations began to be recorded, offering moral lessons and enchanting narratives. The birth of modern fantasy. The 19th century saw the emergence of what is considered modern fantasy literature. Authors like George MacDonald and William Morris wrote influential works that featured imaginary worlds, heroic quests, and magical realms. MacDonald's Fantastes and Morris's The Well at the World's End laid the groundwork for the genre's conventions. The Golden Age of Fantasy. The early 20th century marked the rise of fantasy literature as a distinct genre. Writers like J.R.R. Tolkien and C.S. Lewis became iconic figures with their seminal works, The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings trilogy, Tolkien, and The Chronicles of Narnia series, Lewis. These epic tales of epic battles, mythical creatures, and moral struggles captivated readers and set the standard for modern fantasy storytelling. The new wave of fantasy. In the latter half of the 20th century, fantasy literature experienced a resurgence in popularity, fueled by authors such as Ursula K. Le Guin, Terry Brooks, and Stephen R. Donaldson. Le Guin's Earthsea series explored themes of identity, power, and balance, while Brooks's Shannara series introduced readers to sprawling epic sagas set in richly imagined worlds. Contemporary fantasy and subgenres. In the 21st century, fantasy literature has diversified into various subgenres, including urban fantasy, paranormal romance, and grimdark fantasy. Authors like Neil Gaiman, American Gods, George R.R. Martin, A Song of Ice and Fire series, and Brandon Sanderson, Mistborn series, have pushed the boundaries of the genre, incorporating complex characters, intricate plots, and darker themes. Influence of media and pop culture. The rise of film, television, and video games has further popularized fantasy storytelling and expanded its reach to wider audiences. Adaptations of fantasy novels, such as the Harry Potter series and Game of Thrones, have achieved immense commercial success and introduced new generations to the genre. Overall, the evolution of the fantasy genre in literature reflects humanity's enduring fascination with the extraordinary, the magical, and the unknown. From ancient myths to contemporary epics, fantasy literature continues to captivate readers with its imaginative worlds, compelling characters, and timeless themes.